world in terms of Bigfoot or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
The
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, some of the people that we follow on different social media sites, we've seen where museums have been had to shut down due to all this. We've been affected because we wanted to attend a conference next month down in Huntsville.
Right.
The
The third
and
annual Southeast Texas Bigfoot Conference, and that was one of the ones that kind of more concerned me. Those guys that put those on, they put a lot into it. They put a lot of effort, they put a lot of money into it. And for instance, this one, they canceled it. And, my concern is, and I don't know what these guys in their final numbers and things like that, but they had to reserve the entertainment that was coming. They had to reserve the facility. They had to reserve the caterers. They had to buy the t-shirts, buy the posters, buy the flyers, buy all the publications, all of that sort of stuff. And, a lot of these guys like this, they're not able to absorb that cost so much. Hopefully they have insurance or some of those types of things. But some of that stuff, if you were going to attend that kind of stuff, one of the things that I saw is on the bigger, broader spectrum of things, most people were like, "Hey, keep my money.
Yeah.
Have it next year." That's what I'm concerned with.
A lot of the vendors did that too.
Right. So I think that, and it wasn't just that conference. There was multiple conferences on, across the U.S. that this was happening too. So,
right.
That's my big concern is if they don't get the support from us as the paranormal community, that they won't be able to have these events again, because they're going to take it so much in the pocketbook that they're going to be negatively. They're like, next year, they're like, is this a risk I want to take again?
Right.
So I think as the paranormal community, we need to understand and realize that if we, for instance, I think we paid $60,
something like that.
So in my opinion, if I don't get that back and that he's able to have that next year, I'm perfectly fine, because that was our big trip. That's our guys' trip, and we get a lot of footage, we get a lot of personal memories, we get a lot of things out of that. I would rather have that happen again than see them not ever have it again, because that was an excellent conference.
It really was. They had a lot of good people come in there and tell their stories, and it opened up my eyes a lot to the realm of Bigfoot.
Well, one of the things that I've thought about also, it's not just the folks putting on the conference, but if you stop and think about how it affects the community, they would have had all those folks in the hotel rooms, all of the restaurants and everything. People would have been going out to eat. So it's a huge impact, and that's just one conference.
Yeah. And the vendors, and I'm going to get into it in just a little bit, but they have speakers that come to these things. They have the vendors that come sell their goods, and this is how those guys make their money.
Yeah, definitely.
So to not be able to go, hopefully by the time this is over, 2 or 3 months down the road, that's a quarter of the year that some of these people are going to be missing their revenues, the way they make their living. Mm-hmm. So I think it's something that we as the paranormal community need to go out and support and be able to, where they can continue to do this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, if I can real quick, Rob, we got a shout out from Stephanie. That's your daughter.
Oh, cool. Out in North Carolina with her new husband. Yep. Hey, Steph.
Yeah, she wanted to say hello.
If you call last week's show, that was that was one of her stories that we went over.
No, not my daughter Stephanie. The other Stephanie. That was our member. Yeah. No, this is my daughter Stephanie.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's out all the way in North Carolina now.
I'm trying to read messages and everything. This is a different experience. I'm watching our Skype feed and it's live and I can see, but I'm watching the feed that's coming through. It's a little delay, so it's making me busy. Then I got messages. And
exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm looking. Well, so far, I'm lucky. I don't have any messages so far, so only you guys.
But hey, send in those comments. Send in questions you may have about paranormal or anything, and we'll try to answer them for you.
Yeah, even if you have a story about something that you're doing during this coronavirus, if there's something that you're taking precautions about, let us know so we can probably pass it out there as well to others.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Definitely.
So Jeff, one of the things that you talked about was the museum that had closed down. There's actually a couple of them, that had to shut down, and I think the one that it struck me the most was Lauren Coleman's International Cryptozoology Museum.
Yeah.
And he basically put out a message that said, "I'm going to be shutting down. It may be 2 weeks, it may be 2 months, it may be 2 years. I don't know when, but I'll do what I can to bring it back up." That's something that he's put his life work into. I know that Cliff Baragman had posted about the North American Bigfoot Center. They just, opened that up and got all that running, and all of that's been closed down. And they're asking for people to go online and, buy their goods that you can buy in their online stores and things like that to help still support them, because they're not getting that revenue of people coming to the location and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, Mike. At these conferences, these vendors come and they sell their books, and that's where they make a lot of money, to include speaking fees and all of that kind of stuff as well. So if you take 4 or 5 months of that away from them, they've lost a large amount of income.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That is very true. Speaking of, you were talking about that, and this was it's a nice little segue you had there, Jeff. I recently finished Ken Gerhard's last book, which is The Essential Guide to Bigfoot. And he's another one of those he's he goes to these conferences, he goes to these things, he does the speaking, he's on a lot of these TV shows and things like that. So when by shutting down and not being able to travel and do that kind of stuff, I'm not talking about just him, I'm talking all these kinds of guys, that's how they make their money. So I will say that this is probably one of the better Bigfoot books I had read. If you are looking, here's what I'll say: if you are new to Bigfoot in general, if you're new to cryptids and all that sort of stuff, this is the book for you. If you're an experienced guy, more experienced, this is a great reference material. But if you have questions and you're not really knowing where to how to take the information in and how to process that, or you're like, oh, this can't be or that can't be, this is the book you need to read. So again, support all of these local guys. I know that Jeff, you and I were talking about it. I think that Lon Strickler's got a new book out on one of my favorite subjects, which is the Chicago Mothman sightings.
Yeah.
Lauren Coleman's got a book that's come out here recently. All of the authors that you read, if you go to these sites and you listen to them speak, most of them have books, most of them have that sort of stuff. So again, go support. You're sitting at home anyway, go support, buy their books, and help support those guys so they can continue doing what we like to go do in the downtime.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So, Rob, what's your take on things?
As far as which one?
Maybe the coronavirus, where you see it going, how long do you think it's maybe going to last? What more impacts will it have on us as Americans, do you think?
Whew, that's a big one right there. I thought we were just talking about the paranormal world.
Well, I mean, but it affects all of us, so.
It does affect all of us. It really does. I mean, when I first heard all about this, I was one of the ones that are like, yeah, okay. Everyone's wearing a mask out there. I was one of the ones that was not. I saw it more like a flu-type symptom.
Right.
I really don't get that sick. And then, lo and behold, right after I pick up my first class and stuff, I get like 1 week into class, and then I'm told, hey, don't come to class. I'm like, what happened? And it was one of my students had the sniffles, and everyone thought he had corona, so they quarantined us. So I know firsthand exactly what it was like to be in the quarantine process. It was different because I couldn't go nowhere. I couldn't talk to anyone. My daughter stopped by, and I'm like talking through the door and stuff. I was like, hey, I might have it, so you might be quarantined as well. So it not only affected me, my classmates, it also affected my daughter, her husband, and my other daughter just for stopping by. So it's not to be taken lightly. Let's put it that way. Don't take it lightly. Take all the precautions. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. If you do touch your face, wash your hands again. Always wash your hands. Take precautions.
Yeah. Well, I know here in town, it seems like, for me, there's still a lot of people out on the streets.
Oh, there's a lot of people out on the streets.
When you look at people's mentality, what is essential?
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy. And then, and I will say, you can kind of, in the very beginning, Rob, I was the conspiracy theorist on it. We have a friend that we talked to that started.
You thought it was 5G, didn't you?
Well, no, I didn't.
Hey, we'll get into that in just a minute. We'll get into that.
I'm not a 5G thing, but he started posting this stuff way back when. I mean, like December,
Right.
And I'm like, man,
I know
this
who
is
you're
crazy.
talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, as it started coming out, I'm like, you know what? I look at the flu deaths, I look at this, I look at these projections, and I was a big conspiracy theorist. And I will say, I hope that, they said this last week and this upcoming week is going to be our hardest weeks. And I hope that, to me, it looks like, and please don't take this the wrong way, one death is way too many, but it doesn't, when I looked at the stats right before we went online, it doesn't seem to be doing that gross climb that I think they were projecting. So I can kind of see where some of the conspiracy guys are really kind of coming with some of that stuff. But at the same time, I don't think that, I personally know someone that has coronavirus, and I know that they're okay. They're a young person that is healthy, and I think that they're going to be okay. But at the same time, what gets me is hearing the stories of the kids that are affected. These kids that have died alone in a hospital room. That I guess that's where my panic sets in, and maybe that's what triggers me. So it's a scary deal.
It really is. Yeah.
I do think that we will recover from this. We're going to press on. In a couple months, we're going to be trying. It's going to take a long time to recover from this as a nation financially, but I think that we'll recover from this. I think that this is only the beginning of what's going to come. I mean, when you look at history and these types of pandemics and things like that, I think it's gonna come again one day. Something, it's only getting worse. The more people there are, the more cross communication. That's how this thing. When you look at like the bubonic plague. One of the bouts of that went around, it took 100 years to work its way from the Far East into Los Angeles. Literally almost 100 years to go that far. This thing took days.
Yeah.
Just absolutely days because of the way the whole world is intermeshed nowadays. So I think it's going to change the face of the earth and how we do things. I think that, we joke about this, and I put it up on Instagram, and I know my mother-in-law made you guys one, but I think you're going to see more of this in the future. I think you're going to see us as Americans worry that. I look at some of the stats on some of the countries that didn't get as affected. They are mask-wearing countries because of the pandemics or the epidemics that they had in the past.
So do you think that we're going to be wearing masks from here on out, even when this dies down?
I think you will see more people wearing masks. I think that most people will become complacent because we all know, and as being prior military people, how complacency works, and we'll all go back to normal and it'll go away. But I think you'll see that handshaking and masks, all of that will be changed. That's my. I think you'll see less handshaking, more masks in public, in great public things, and Okay. Well, good. So we're laughing because Rob got pulled away for a second. Y'all can't see it apparently, but Jeff and I were like, "What the heck?" So anyway, I think that it's going to change the surface of everything for us in the future.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, Mike. I think the days of handshaking and all of that will probably be gone. We may do more of the elbow bumps or that kind of stuff with one another.
And I think you'll see more people taking hand washing. I mean, not that they shouldn't have already. I mean, this is kind of the sad part, but you'll see hand washing, hand sanitizer. And then the other thing is, I think that everybody thought the preppers were crazy until this hit, you know? So I think you're going to see a upsurge in prepping after this. I think you're going to see more and more people that will be prepared. A great portion of America lives paycheck to paycheck. So going out and buying 6 months or a year's worth of food and supplies.
I mean, toilet paper.
A good example is toilet paper. Preppers don't get me wrong, they have toilet paper and that sort of thing, but toilet paper is not high on the list of a real prepper because it takes too much room to store. And there's many other things that you can do. I mean, you can wash.
And where did
you know,
it all go?
Well, because for some reason I don't understand it, but it's not really high on the list of preppers items. Does that make sense? So I don't. I think you'll see more people smartly prepare. I think I losing my voice there because I got too far away. I think you'll see more people smartly prepare for this kind of stuff.
Well, hey, I want to share a comment that Stephanie posted. She said, I got called a communist the other day while at work because I had told someone, please don't step over the tape. She works at Walmart.
Right.
Now, how sad is that?
Well, and it's not, and this is my opinion. I get the whole rights thing. I get the fact that we as Americans, we're a free citizen and we shouldn't necessarily have this. However, to me, it's not about me. It's about that person on the other side of the line that is having to be there to support us and the things that we need.
Mm-hmm.
We need to protect them. And that's how we should look at that. It shouldn't be whether or not I'm losing my right. It's that I'm trying to protect my friend over there that's having to work. I got a gas station I go to that hung the plexiglass thing up.
Mm-hmm.
He either had to wear a mask or have a shield. And he's like, I can't wear a mask all day. That's
right.
12 hours sitting here. I can't do it. I'm going to put the mask up. And he's got the line back from the counter. And why is that? It's because when people come up and start coughing on him or doing this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
It's not about whether I can't cross that line. It's about protecting my counterpart on the other side of the line. That's what it's about.
And see, that's what we need to be doing during this coronavirus is looking out for one another, not just yourself, but look out for someone else, especially the elderly, because they're more receptive to this. They really are. And my son-in-law, he works at the prison, and he needs the stuff, the sanitizing stuff out there. He really does because of everything that goes on out there. But there was only one left in Walmart, and there was an older gentleman that was looking for some as well, and he just happened to have it in his cart. My son-in-law did, and when the older gentleman couldn't find it anymore, that's when he's like, well, here, I can find it somewhere else. I'm younger than you. You take this. And he's like, no. He's like, no, seriously, you take this. So, I mean, we have to do more stuff like that. We really do. We need to look out for other people, not just hoarding.
Well, and that's what I think that we should. In again, I don't want to go down the political spectrum, but I get the whole free American thing, and trust me, I'm pretty far up that spectrum myself. However, it's about looking. It's about looking out for your other Americans. That's what it's about. Yeah. And you need to quit focusing on what are they taking away right now, because you've heard the thing about, fight the battle another day, live to fight the battle another day. That's what it's about right now. You got to make sure we get through this. Then we'll cross that bridge and we'll figure out where to go. Now, I am seeing stuff where, and again, I don't know how much truth to this, where they're talking about, the LA mayor has put out rewards for people that turn in their neighbors for gathering in parks. And I saw a thing in Canada where the guy was arrested for playing softball catch with his daughter in the middle of a park. So, there are some things to be concerned about. But again, I think right now it's about protecting your counterparts and pressing on.
Yeah. Hey, we got a comment from Joel. He's a coworker of mine. He says it's going to be more socially acceptable to wear the mask after this, he thinks.
Right.
That's what you were just saying, Mike.
And that's kind of like SARS in Japan and in Asian countries. They didn't have they had the lower percentage of death rates and the contraction rates because, and that, again, you can fact check my numbers, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But from what I'm seeing, they had those lower numbers because after the whole avian flu, they wear masks everywhere. So now, and that's what it's about. It's about, if you touch something on the counter, you can't touch your mouth.
Right.
And that's the thing with gloves. I mean, and that's essentially what the CDC said. The masks do nothing to prevent the transmission other than remind you not to touch your face.
Right.
And that's basically what it is. And the same thing with gloves. If you're wearing gloves, you're less likely to come up, unless you've seen the meme of the guy in Walmart pulling the gloves off with his teeth. So So anyway, yeah, I think it will be more socially acceptable. And you know, the problem is then you're going to go back to, you could go way down political spectrums. If it's okay to wear a mask like this, why is it not okay to wear, a cultural mask or a cultural face
Mm-hmm.
shield? But
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot change. I really do.
But one of the things I want to say here real quick before we go on, we need to really stop and thank our medical folks
Oh,
that
definitely.
are on the front line, spending many hours in there trying to help patients. They're putting up with a lot. They're having to come and quarantine themselves from their
Mm-hmm.
families a lot of times, and so I'd like to give a big shout out to those medical folks.
Yeah, definitely. And the first responders too.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and as crazy as it sounds, think about, I went to our little grocery store and and I know that they're not on the same level as the medical responders. I understand that, but they hire like teenagers to come in and work to take groceries from the inside to the cars. So the carts get back in and all that kind of stuff. While I was talking, you see the same people when you go that are working these long shifts because other people aren't going into work. Other people aren't doing that. And these kids are working 12 hours trying to stock the stores and do all that kind of stuff and expose themselves to all that multitude of people that want to cross the line and want to do all this kind of stuff. So anybody that works in a field like that, I think it's awesome. So
yeah. Hey, Mike, we talked just a little bit. A few weeks ago or a few days ago, we had brought this up when we started talking about doing this podcast. What do you think of the COVID-19 virus affecting something such as Bigfoot? Do you think there's the possibility that the virus could affect Bigfoot?
Well, in my opinion, I am of the camp that Bigfoot is a hominid, an undiscovered hominin that's closely related to us at some lineage along the lines. So that being said, when you look at great apes and other primates, we have devastated populations of gorillas, and along those lines. And that's what they talk about now. The zoos are having to take special precautions because if you take someone, like, for example, like a newborn that has no immunities built up, they're really susceptible to getting, a communicable disease because of that, because they don't have the immunities built up. Same thing with these gorillas and things like that. And then they talk about, like, in Africa, they were having to shut down the national parks because they were afraid that we would take it to those national parks, because if you took it in a family of silverback gorillas got it, by the time they scatter throughout the woods and visit other communities and other families of their species, it would be devastating. It could wipe out, and I'd read the numbers. It was something like 80% of the population it could wipe out because they have zero immunities to this kind of stuff. So that's why, they take those precautions. But yes, I think on that, if you look at Bigfoot as if you take away, and I'm not going to have that debate today, any of the supernatural or alien aspects of the Bigfoot claims, if you look at it as an undiscovered primate species of some sort, yeah, I think it could seriously, you think about, of course, now they've shut down most of the national and state parks and things like that where people go camping. But you go camping, something gets into the trash or whatever, and gets that, and then takes it in. I think it could, because now they're saying that you can give it to your pet. It doesn't affect them as badly, but then your pet can't give it back to you. That's what I had read the other day. So you could give it. There was an instance of a tiger in one of the zoos that contracted coronavirus, and they expected him to fully recover, but he was, I guess, tested positive for the coronavirus. So,
wow. Okay.
So you can give it to the pet. They supposedly can't give it back. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong. And then, but it's dangerous for them, because what if it looks so it doesn't affect the tiger, but what if it affects another animal or a gorilla or an orangutan or something like that? So yeah, I think that Bigfoot's along the exact same lines as that.
Okay. Hey, we were asked by one of our viewers, do you all have any investigations planned after all this quarantine stuff blows over?
And I was going to bring something up about that. How do you think that's going to affect other paranormal organizations with the investigations, and if people are going to be wearing masks and stuff? Because I know we have 2 on the books right now that we're wanting to do.
Yeah, we have 2, and then we had 2 that we wanted to do. One of them we had scheduled. It was firm. We had to reschedule. And then
that's actually when I first had the coronavirus scare. Mm-hmm. We had to reschedule because of that.
Yep, because you were in lockdown.
Yep.
And then I had the big expedition planned to the mountain region this spring, that later on in May. And but yes, we had 2 investigations. One of them I think you'll be. So I'm going to go ahead and say this. We were trying to keep this as more of a until we put it out there, but we've been working really, really hard on our YouTube, really, really hard on the media and the content for you guys. We wanted to do something. I'm not going to go completely in depth yet. I'm not going to give spoilers, but I'm going to say, so we've been working really hard to do that. And this one investigation is a place that we have investigated in the past. It is a pay place. And I'll tell you, our first go around, we thought, okay. And then we came home and it went crazy for us. And so we're going back now to investigate that. We want to fully document that and then put that out there for you guys. And so, yes, that's what's coming up. I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised when we get that back, because once we got back from that, we got a pretty good image of a shadow figure, maybe in a mirror. We want to do some testing to make sure it's not a periodola effect or a reflection of one of us or something along those lines. And then we also I think we got a couple of EVPs that we had to discount before, because I'm going to be straight up honest. We had a Boo Buddy, which I like the Boo Buddy. I think it's got its place, but the problem is we left it running the entire time.
Really?
And it contaminated the other audio. So we had some stuff. And then also, when we were there, it's a place that a lot of people go to. And when we were there, we accidentally, Allison brought out her UV light and was shining it around the room, and just happened to notice it went through the window to we were upstairs, went through the window to a downstairs room, and there were sigil markings all over all the door frames that we happened to notice. So we've came back and we've done some more research on some of that. We're more prepared to understand, because that's not, and I'm not knocking any, that's not what we do. But my question is, I did talk to my cousin who is really big into more of the magic and those types of arts. And I think that he says basically it's just a general protection type deal. But where I go with that is I think that there's no telling what someone has done there. And if you really want to get into supernatural and you want to get into more of the dark side of things, which I don't like to go into, however,
sometimes we have to.
I think it warrants it in this situation. I'm getting the chill bumps talking about it. So,
and see, I wasn't able to go with you guys, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. And, when it sits on, we talked about this. We actually tried to record this a week ago. But anyway, it sits on a rail bed, right next to a rail bed. It sits over a well. It sits on this granite bed that runs through the ring, that runs through the area. And then you've had people there that's been doing spells and no telling what sorts of conjuring and that kind of stuff. So I think that there is the potential for something really bad to be there. Yeah. And so we're going back to get into that and kind of see where that's going. And for us, it's for personal reasons. Straight up, I'm going to tell you that. But yes, that's one of the things we've got coming up. We've got some other little investigations that we're going to go on. And then
we got our outdoor adventures as well.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I was going to have you talk about, Mike. Not tell the whole story, but kind of talk about somewhere we may go.
Which one? There's 2 of them.
So yeah, there's 2. One of the ones and this one and I'm sorry, I keep looking at my laptop because I'm talking to Jeff and Rob and my camera is up here. But so one of the things we've been doing, we we live in an area that is, if you drive on the highway, you can see from when they talk about everything's bigger in Texas, it's sky to sky.
Yes.
Sky. I mean, horizon to horizon sky. I mean, it's flat. It's nothing. Well, there's a spot. It's this hidden little gem right off the highway that you would not know that was there.
I had no clue.
It came to us that, hey, we actually heard a podcast that somebody was talking about this. I had heard it a few years ago. I started researching and kind of dug out some information. Then I put it on the back burner. Then Rob heard a podcast and he's like, hey, have you heard about this place? I'm like, yeah. So then we got to digging into it. Then we talked to some well-known people, found out some information. Well, then back last year, I took my son and we went camping, and I was just like, hey, I want to go check it out. So we got down there and I got some interesting tracks, a trail, a trackway, and I got a pretty interesting thermal image hit. I'm going to say I'm in conflict with the tracks that we got. However, after doing some more research and talking to some other investigators, they closely match. Matter of fact, I was sent a picture. Yes. They closely match things that were taken 12 years ago.
Yes.
And the most other recent sighting was 2 years ago. And then we went back.
Well, the first time you and I went, you were showing me all the places that you went to, and there's no way that they could have walked across where you said they walked across and you got your cast done without, well, they probably could have. If it was a Bigfoot, I would say they would be able to.
There's no way that
a human,
any redneck in their wildest minds would have walked across that.
No.
And I say that as a country boy, so I can say that. There's no way. And one of the places where the trackway came out of, we were estimating about 9 feet deep.
Yeah.
And it went under trees. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been swimming in some back places and all, but there's no way I would have swam underneath the trees in the middle of summer.
No.
Not with
snake.
Not in this area.
Nope.
Snake.
Nope.
Heaven. Not going to happen. And then they came out, walked around this place, and then went back across an area that was just, what it was is the creek washes out. It flooded that spring, and all the washout kind of empties out into this area. And it's sticks that just look like this.
Yeah.
And these tracks just went straight across it barefoot. So then I'm going to say this. So I still toy with my idea. I'm thinking, well, it was summer. There were people there swimming. They were barefoot. They were out here walking around in the water. Now, granted, not across that. So, okay, it's in the back burner. So then we went back January. It was our last. You might have seen it on Instagram, Facebook. We went back to this location.
You did a podcast on it.
Yes, we did a podcast out there. I found, I say my brother Jeremy and you, and Jeremy's brother-in-law and I found these first sets, and then you and Jeremy found 2 separate sets.
Right.
We found barefoot footprints a quarter of a mile from nowhere.
Yep.
On a creek bed, and the night before it was about 33, 34 degrees.
It was cold.
It was and it had been that way for a while. I don't know if anybody's familiar with North Texas here, but it's either cold or it's hot. It's hot most of the time, but for about 3 months, it is cold and the wind blows 100 miles an hour. Again, I don't think anybody was hoaxing us. We've been out there. I've been out there multiple times. Right. And it's pretty secluded. It's actually very unused. It's it's a gym. And so anyway, then I sent those pictures to a well-known person I'm not going to name. And that's when we got some stories back, some photos back, and we got some information. So our plan was we were going to go back. Matter of fact, we were going to go back the next weekend after the investigation I just talked about, go camping all weekend long and do some research. But again, that can't happen. So
yes, we do have some stuff out there, and we are going to be putting it on YouTube. We're planning a YouTube kind of like series, if you would. So we got some stuff coming out there. I think you'll be pleased.
And that's one of the things I wanted to focus on with your guys' help too, is on my channel. I wanted to do, I'm really big into overlanding and that sort of stuff. So one of the places I've looked at is a really off-road, backcountry, got to have a 4-wheel drive to get in expedition, about a 4 or 5 day expedition into the heart of an extremely reported Bigfoot area. So we're trying to get some equipment. We're trying to get some things in place for that. And we're going to drive the truck in, but it takes a day to get out if something happens. So some of that kind of stuff, you'll see that again on both channels. That's kind of more what I want to focus on, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's stuff coming up. Sorry, that was long-winded. That's me. Y'all know.
Hey, that's all right. That's what we want to hear. And
on that note, I wanted to say this because, again, I am big into the off-road and the overlanding community and that sort of stuff. And I see a lot of people that post, well, why can't I go fishing or go out by myself? Because that's the best social distancing that you can get. However, I'm going to say it like this. So Big Bend in Texas is renowned for its camping and its backcountry. And they talk about how there's a hospital that serves like 5 communities down there, or 5 counties. So if you go in and right now you're walking, you don't know that you have coronavirus. You get down there, apparently this thing can hit you pretty quick and pretty rapidly. You go out on a weekend camping trip, before you know it, you get sick. Mm-hmm. You have an underlying health condition. You have to go to the hospital, or you have a vehicle accident. You hit an animal with your vehicle. You break down, you break a leg hiking in the woods, and you have to go call an ambulance. Now you've exposed the game wardens, the sheriff's department, the first responders, the hospital, to a community that is completely ill-prepared at handling an epidemic such as this.
Right.
That's why you can't go camping. That's one of those. I wanted to put that in perspective for people, just as a PSA. It's not necessarily that you're trying to go do that. It's that you're going to expose, again, your counterparts to something that they were relatively safe from in their remote areas. So anyway, I wanted to say that real quick.
Hey, real quick, I threw out a question while you guys were talking. I asked, what are your thoughts about Bigfoot, real or not? And someone asked a question. The question exactly is, what is a Bigfoot? Is it a cryptid? Is it an alien? What are y'all's thoughts?
So Mike? I think you, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, right?
No, you're good.
I wanted to say this first. I think you have to understand what a cryptid is, what cryptozoology is. It is only the study of unclassified animals.
Exactly.
There's actually a lot of discussion about how, for example, the Tasmanian tiger, it is reported to be extinct, but it's been cited. So that's considered in the cryptid study because even though it's classified, it's supposedly not alive. So that is what cryptozoology is. It's not necessarily, it is an actual science field as far as I'm concerned. Now, it gets really weird when people start throwing in things like werewolves and vampires and things like that. However, that's where it goes, and that's kind of the fun part. So, but cryptozoology is that way. Personally, I have to admit that there are a lot of lights in the sky sightings associated at or near the same time as Bigfoot sightings. I still think, in my opinion, that it's probably coincidence. Maybe there is something. Maybe it is because the area is exposed to high strangeness. We look at Skinwalker Ranch, Jeff, but we look at Skinwalker Ranch. There are cryptid sightings, there are alien sightings, there are ghost and supernatural sightings, all in the same thing. There are many locations across the world. When you get up into a lot of these areas that are heavily wooded, a lot of that is former tribal land, things like that, where there are some myths and mythologies of supernatural occurrences that happen at the same time. Whether or not they're related, and I'll have to say this, so maybe that the myths and Native American legends may be associated, maybe their mythologies and supernatural occurrences are related to their sightings of that cryptid in the area. But so I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that Bigfoot is a previously unclassified hominid. I think that the reason it's so hard now, when you look back, people say, well, it only started with Patterson-Gimlin. That's incorrect too. This has been going on since the beginning of time. All the Native American tribes have legends all over the world. All the other countries and things like that have stories of similar aspects of what's related to be Bigfoot. Yeah. So, And then they were really popular in the late 1800s in this country when we were really into our expansion and into the wilderness. So all these sightings kind of ramped up. And then it went to the 50s and 60s. And now urban expansion has really gotten out there and you see less and less of that. However, so is technology and people are out there less and less. So I think that Bigfoot is an unclassified. And I still think people that tell you how could there be something like that have not spent times in the woods in East Texas.
That is true.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, you and I've talked about this, and Robbie, we have as well. I never really was a big believer in the whole Bigfoot thing, ghosts and that kind of stuff and spirits and all that. I had some dealings with, and yeah, that interested me. But now within the last couple of years, I've really got interested in the whole Bigfoot thing. To me, there's so many different sightings out there and so much research that's going on about it. There's got to be something to it.
Well, and Jeff, and we've all talked about this. We go to these conferences. In some of these conferences, you're at for a couple of days with people, and you're sitting there and you're breaking bread with these people. You're having conversations, and you might sit across the table from Farmer Joe, who has been raised a devout Christian his whole life, who has been, no, there's nothing about you that ever makes them think that that person would think about supernatural things or any of this kind of stuff. Yet they had an experience that they tell with you. And this is a person that may have hunted. They know what bears, they know what all these creatures look like. And they tell you, I came face to face with something. And I'm telling you, this is what it looked like. And you look at them and I mean, we as investigators, we pick up on a lot of cues when you kind of know that somebody might be kind of not necessarily making things up, but even embellishing it as they're going along. But some of these cases you hear and this person with all their heart and soul, this is just has changed their life. And then you talk to other investigators that had a normal life, that were out camping one night and had rocks the size of footballs thrown at them. And they're trying to tell you this, and they're like, and then I heard this screaming and I heard this kind of stuff. And this is okay. So it ain't a Bigfoot, but what the hell is it? I mean, you have to check this out. So anyway, that's what gets me are the stories that people, again, a good old country boy that's been in the woods hunting and fishing his whole life. And he comes around a creek bed one day and there's something sitting there staring at him that pounds their chest and runs off in the woods. And you're like, they didn't misidentify that. I mean, this guy can tell you the sex of a turkey from 100 yards away without a second glance, but you're telling me that he misidentified a Bigfoot as a bear in a part of the country that don't have bears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, Rob, what's your take on it? What do you think of Bigfoot?
Well, I was like you. I really, that was like, you guys went to the first Bigfoot conference, and I was like, "Yeah, you guys go ahead. That's you guys. Go ahead." But you guys talked me into going to the one down there that we always go to now, and walking in there. Okay, I know this was Mike's. This is all Mike's thing. But walking in there, I was like, "Okay, I'm here for you guys." Okay, yeah, okay. And then I listened to some of the stories, some of the encounters that was being told. And we even had Bob Gimlin was down there. Gimlin. And listening to his story, and then we took a break, and I happened to pull up the Patterson video. And it's that famous video that everyone has seen. And I was looking at it, and I was like, okay, that's intriguing. That's intriguing. I can't wait to get it home to the computer, tear it apart, look at it. And when he got done telling his story, and then I took notes. He said the exact same thing, the same amount of years, over and over. His story never changed.
Since the beginning. Since
the beginning. It has never changed. Even the point, or the part to where he was talking about how Peterson was running, and he tripped over. And you can see that in the camera. There's just everything that he talked about was in this video, and his story never changed. So I was like, okay. So I tore the video apart. I really did. I had in my tactical opinion, and I don't have any expertise in this, I've just been doing this sort of thing on the side. I could not find a logical reason that it would be a human being. The movement, it was animal-like. It was even. I ran it through the filters that I run through our regular stuff too, and you can see where the different temperatures were, if you would. And on one part, if you look in the video, there when the arm is brushing by her, when it's brushing by, you can see that it changes the same one as it would on the hand. So everything was all there, but when I walk, I don't brush my hand up there. I don't, do that. So looking at that footage and then going back the second year, it got me more open-minded, if you would. The possibility.
Well, and see, that's the way I was. I was the same way. I was like, yeah, I'm going with Mike just to go have a guy's trip.
Exactly, yeah.
And see what's going on.
You didn't get to go camping with us. I think if you had been camping with us, because I think that's what ultimately changed Rob's opinion.
Yeah.
Was finding the tracks.
Yes. When I saw those tracks for the first time, I was like, what the heck? There's no way that anyone would walk out where they were. There's no way. There's just no way. And the stride in between them. I took a normal stride. But this stride was like another foot more than I would be. I had to do the lunge, okay? And I'm trying to mimic myself right now, but I had to do the lunge in order to get that pace. And I found 3 different tracks there, and I'm like, okay, all right. And then Jeremy found some up the way because him and I, you stopped at where you found your tracks, where you were doing the casting.
I was casting.
Him and I kept going through the unthinkable. We were going to find the end of this until it actually stopped. And when we couldn't go anymore, that's when him and I crawled out of the ravine. And he went to the right, I went to the left, because I was coming back trying to find my way back to where you were. And he kept on going. He found an entirely different set of tracks than what I found. Mine were going in one direction, his were going in one direction.
Well, if you remember too, he found the tracks that were going up the hill that would have went around to where you were at.
Yes.
So it's very possible that it could have been, which to me boldens the theory that they are a creature's footprints, because they would have went through that valley up that there's a washout that these tracks would have went up where Jeremy was at. Then it would have gone up and there's an old forestry road that would have turned to the right. And that's where the tracks were coming from that would have, if they would have came down the road. So to me, it boldens, and that is pure conjecture that's were the same tracks, but it is extremely possible that they were the same tracks based off of the terrain that they would have walked on.
Right.
Well, you guys both said it earlier, and I totally agree with looking at the footage you guys showed me. There's no way anybody in their right mind would be back there in their bare feet in that area. No way.
No.
And I'm going to quickly go back to when Rob was talking about the Patterson film. We know it in the community, but if for anybody out there that's not listening, they don't really follow along, there was a guy that he specializes in 4K restorations of films, and he redid the Patterson Gimlin film in 4K. Yeah. And now it does extrapolate and interpolate the data to create that 4K image. So you have to take that into consideration. However, it's using the data it has to do that. So there's that as well. So, but as Ken says in his book, you can see the pendulous breasts swaying as she's walking.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it is, right. And it's like, how do you fake that in 1967? I mean, how does...
Yeah, because everyone's saying it was someone in a gorilla suit or someone in a suit.
Yeah.
67. They didn't have that back then. I mean...
Right.
Yeah, you may have had ghillie suits back then, but that was taking branches off and putting it... This was a full-bodied, hairy beast.
And I hear people all the time, they're like, well, how can you, I hunted all my life and all that. And I'm thinking, I asked them, well, where have you hiked through Sam Houston National Forest?
Right.
Or the Pacific Northwest, gotten off trail, gotten off something, and have you walked through that areas? Because unless you have been there, but once you have, you understand how it could be.
Well, that's
There's
like
no doubt.
when you and I went, we were just doing recon. We walked up on a hunter. He was standing still. We didn't see him. The only reason I saw him was because he
moved.
vaguely moved. And I just caught him out of the corner of my eye. If something doesn't want to be found in those woods, they're not going to be found. That's the whole point behind hunting.
Especially something that's naturally camouflaged and knows the area way better than you're ever going to know it.
Exactly. Yeah. They live there.
Yeah. And I truly think they're a lot more intelligent than people give them the...
Well, and if they are some lineage of hominin that's somewhat related to us from in the past, they still have that brain capacity. Whether it may not be as big as us or our brain capabilities, but they still have that human way of reasoning. Yeah. Yes, and then they have the animal instinct, and then also if they, when you look at how animals, so how many bear carcasses do you find from that one that was not struck by a car or had an unnatural death? How many natural bear carcasses are found?
Exactly.
Very, very few, because they go and they bury in and they hide somewhere and they die.
Yeah.
So they know that, and the bear knows it's going to die and it knows it's going to go there. Well, you take something that has a more human reasoning, that doesn't want to be found, that wants to avoid the competition, that doesn't want to be there. And then you go into those woods, and until you've been there, if you haven't been to East Texas and gotten off trail, go to Caddo Lake and get off trail. I take that back. I'm not going to say that because you'll get lost if you're not been there. I mean, that's some serious stuff. But yeah, that's one of the places that's next on my list. I want to kayak in off of Caddo Lake, and I want to get deep.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I've got a question. I got a question that came in on Facebook. The question is, why do you guys think people talk about government cover-ups on UFOs and things such as Bigfoot, but you hardly hear anything about it on paranormal, the paranormal piece?
Well, isn't the UFOs and Bigfoot part of the paranormal? Because that's just paranormal is just things that we don't understand.
No, I know what they're getting at, though, is, like spirits and ghosts and that kind of stuff. Why do you think you don't hear a lot about that? UFOs I can see.
I think it's because the history of what the government's done.
Right, exactly.
And then also I think that the conspiracy theorists don't say the crypts say Bigfoot. People think that, for example, one of the excuses that's used for the conspiracy theories in, say, California are like the logging companies. They don't want to disclose that because that changes. I mean, you talk about what's been spent to save a species of owl, in California, it gets really crazy out there. But I think that there's a money connection behind it. I think that there is, and what the way things have been covered in the past. Plus, there's also lots of stories that come out of that. Although Bigfoot is even more rare than alien. I think that the alien thing is a national security deal, and there's so much more stuff that has been purposely. When you look back at Project Blue Book and all of that time frame of the alien stuff, there has been stuff that has been questionable by the U.S. government, no doubt in my mind. So their behavior, whether or not it was intentional or not, it was questionable, the behavior. So I think that fuels the conspiracy theorists. Whereas spirits, before governments, before, superpowers, before all of that, the spirits have been around and they've been accepted. It's been accepted to have the spirit of, I mean, you look back into not prehistoric, but even back to like Egyptian times and things like that, they worshiped the supernatural and they worshiped and they revered those things. And it's moved up through history. You go back into the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages and all that sort of stuff. The spirit world was part of that way of life.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they based their harvest off of the solstice and the spirits, and all of these things happened, and it's been a part of way of life. Whereas to me, the alien stuff, even though it goes back further, it really took off with Roswell, and the government and all of that stuff kind of came out. And then you look at the same thing with Bigfoot. And again, it goes way back further, but then when you get into when it all happened, there was a whole lot of government involvement and denials and things like that. And as soon as the government denies anything, so the government, the government denies Bigfoot, the government denies aliens, but you won't ever hear the government talk about ghosts. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of it too.
Well, I mean, if you look back in history, though, when people have gone into caves and ruins and that kind of stuff, you see saucer type drawings on the walls and that kind of stuff. So maybe there is something further back than just, the Roswell brought it up into the here and now.
The modern times, yeah.
Right.
Same thing. But, talk about the same thing with Sasquatch or Bigfoot. There's multiple, native artworks and things like that. They go back hundreds of years that have the same depictions.
Yeah. And by the way, that comment that came in was from Kyle Jones, my son. So, hey, well, we've been going here quite a while. What do you think we take a break here for a few minutes?
All right, cool.
And then we'll come back and we'll finish up on conspiracy theorists of the COVID-19. All right, we'll see.
The MPI Podcast, online 24/7 at militaryparanormal.com. We'll be right back.
With progress comes a time to expand your search and explore further. Meet GS2, the most feature-packed laser grid system for ghost hunting, all in one package. The original GS1 was the first product created for paranormal investigations right here at Ghost Stop. Over the years, it has become an essential tool for investigators. The GS2 takes us even further with more features for visualizing changes in the environment, now coupled with an array of sensors for precision measurement, alerts, and event tracking. GS2 detects motion, direction, distance, temperature, and shape within the laser mapped area. It starts by logging baseline readings, then begins scanning the grid for changes and logging notable events. GS2 is a surge forward in precision measurement and ease for paranormal investigators. Shed a new beam of light on your investigations with the GS2 laser grid system. Only at ghoststop.com.
Welcome back to The Truth Is to Be Found podcast with your host, members from the MPI team.
And welcome back to Military Paranormal Investigations podcast, our live podcast. And it seems that we got things going, even though we had a technical difficulty early on, but it looks like we got things going. Reminder, you can find us on militaryparanormal.com, on Facebook if you're watching us live right now, YouTube, which, I haven't got a single view on YouTube. That's okay. I mean, at least we're getting it on Facebook. We got some on Twitch and Mixer. Don't know about D-Live. I wasn't able to catch that one yet. But, if you got any comments or questions or you want to be a part of the show, hey, you've already been doing it. So, go ahead.
Well, for those that are just now joining us, I'm Jeff, part of MPI. And what we started the show out of how COVID-19 may have affected the paranormal world. And we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit.
Just a little.
But that's okay. So now what we wanted to talk about was how does COVID-19 have the conspiracy theories, and what are they?
Well, the one that I was bringing up earlier with Mike, as he was talking about how he was doing the whole conspiracy, is The 5G, the new 5G system that they got coming out, the Wi-Fi, they're saying that could be a cause of the COVID-19 and how it can spread over the airwaves of whatever. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people. In fact, there's a lot of celebrities that I've read that have jumped on board with that theory.
Well-
That it's causing it to spread quickly, and
I don't see how they're also saying, and I don't get this, how they think that it could cause you to have a weaker immune system through the radiation.
I could understand that before I could understand that it's spreading it, because there's like, I read the stat the other day, and I could be wrong because I honestly don't know how many countries there are, and I probably should, but it's like 138 countries have reported cases of COVID, and 5 are the only ones with 5G. So yeah, I can. There's a lot of stuff that I think that 5G has a right to have some conspiracy theory, but I don't think it has anything to do with COVID-19.
Okay, here's another one that I read about, how the aliens have brought the coronavirus to us.
Now that one I've thought about. Y'all know me. So I mean, when you look at, so I'm going to say this. I am going to get weird for a minute.
You? No.
Yeah.
no.
I'm going to get real weird for a minute. So when you look at how every country before it hit them, oh, it's nothing to worry about. Oh, it's nothing to worry about. And you can take, I'm not even going to go with Trump this or Trump that. I'm going to say every country, both sides of both major parties in the U.S. were saying the same thing. Other countries, Italy was one of the worst.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nothing to worry about, which I think is part of what happened. And I think they've admitted that that's part of why they took it so hard. But all of a sudden, all this comes out and they're like, oh, shelter in place, don't go nowhere, don't do this, don't do this. So what if there was some truth to that, where there was this spread, and that's part of the reason why the government is locking everybody down, trying to do this, because maybe it's worse. Maybe it's not worse in the way of it's going to, essentially harm more elderly people here or this or that or the other. But what if the situation is worse than we led to believe on a whole different spectrum?
Right.
Because that's been part of the talk about, if we go to Mars, we can't, and we go to an area, it's hard for us to bring back samples that aren't contaminated, because now we've been there. Even our machinery takes the stuff from Earth there and contaminates the environment. That's a lot of environmentalists that have a lot to do with that, about going to other planets and things like that. So when you look at part of the stuff that I read was, China, we talked about this on the moon thing, about not going back to the moon. Oh, right. Now everybody's going back to the moon. Why? Because China went to the backside of the moon and put a rover. And to me, that's my opinion of why every other country has said, hey, we're going back to the moon. We're going to do this. So where did this start?
I got another conspiracy for you.
China. Well, sorry. But yeah, that's where it started, is China. And so what if there is a connection? I don't know. And that's just way out there, but it's something.
So are you saying that the connection would be that the coronavirus came from the moon?
Not the moon. I'm just saying.
Well, they went to the dark side of the moon.
Let me rephrase this. I am not saying any of this. What I'm saying is the conspiracy theories that talk about it, to me, have some merit in that fact of, what is one of the things that could be, and this has been part of the whole beginning of UFO and alien stuff, right, is what if something came here? What is the biggest threat? And I'm talking scientists, major scientists have said the bigger threat isn't whether or not they're going to come wipe us out. It's what they bring.
Yeah.
Just like when we went to the New World and we took a virus with us, yes, the flu that wiped out the Aztec, or, yep, or whatever. That's what the biggest threat is. And then anyway, so I think that there are some merit on that, but.
So do you think that the coronavirus is like that, where China's trying to take out the rest of the world with the coronavirus? That's another conspiracy.
No, I think that, yeah, I think that there is some validity, especially when what you read early on, there is some validity, whether or not it was China or whether or not it was another country that was trying to harm China. And then it got out of hand, which I think is the problem in all of that kind of stuff. When you look back in history, there was what was it? Was it the bats that they were going to send, the flaming bats or the birds? We talked about it before. I'm trying to remember.
That's what they're saying that the coronavirus is coming from, was the bats. They're testing on the bats.
Yeah, I mean, a totally different deal though. But they were going to send these bombs and birds or bombs and bats, and then the bats came back and blew up their own stuff. Because anyway, so there's a lot of those types of things that happen that way that go awry. And I think that's when you talk about weather modification.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the conspiracies on weather modification. It was made to stop a hurricane here, but then you set into this whole chain of events that's now modified the weather, global warming, all of this kind of stuff that could have came from that. Same thing with the coronavirus. When you look at a virus that kills rapidly and it kills indiscriminately, and anyway, the conspiracy, I believe, has merit that it could have been a possibility. I'm not saying that that's where it went. I'm just saying that is a possibility. And then it went awry, and now it's worldwide. And then once it starts mutating and all of that, then you've got problems.
Yeah. What about you, Jeff? What do you think?
Well, I try not to go down the conspiracy theory route. I'm not kind of like Mike. At least I'm not vocal with it anyways. But could I believe that there's a conspiracy theory out there that maybe somebody was trying to cause harm to a certain group of people or a country or whatever? Sure, I think it's possible.
And that's where I'm going. I think it has merit.
I've read reports where China's saying that, somebody from our country, the army or whatever, brought over this virus and set it up over there. Do I believe all that? I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so at all. But I know we really, really have got to take this virus serious.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because I was telling my dad the other day in the car, I said, I never thought in my lifetime would I ever see such a pandemic as this.
Yeah.
I really never thought I would.
I don't think anyone really did.
When you look back at like our grandparents or even our parents that have been, I mean, like, how does your dad, like the polio vaccine and all that kind of stuff? I mean, have you talked to him about any of that, how that compares?
No.
So, and there have been these pandemics, epidemics, if you will. I think it's the first for even our mix. I mean, you talk about Gen Xers, Gen Ys, and millennial. I mean, we're all in this together in this boat. You know what I mean? Regardless of what's going on. But I think it's a first for us. And when you look back in history, I mean, these things hit quite often. It's just never really affected the greater portion of the world like this. It actually has back in early days, again, with the bubonic plague spread like crazy.
Yeah.
It's just a first thing for us. And I think we do need to take it serious, regardless of what your beliefs are or what happened. I think it needs to be taken seriously.
So with the coronavirus and all the deaths that are coming, do you think investigations are going to pick up when we can finally get out there and investigate? Or how do you think an investigation is going to go? Do you think someone's going to want someone to come into their home and investigate if they do have anything paranormal?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen on the news how they're digging up property in New York somewhere. I don't remember where the location was, but they're burying hundreds of people in this mass grave. People that can't afford and
Really?
may be homeless. Yeah. So, just like we've talked about before with battlefields and those kind of things, where people die and that energy is absorbed into the ground, could it increase? I believe it could. I really do.
Do you think the activity is going to pick up?
I do.
Okay.
I think so.
What about you, Mike?
We've talked about it before. When you look at it, for instance, the Slender Man deal, that was an art program that went crazy and then it blew up. And they talk about how one of the possibilities is that after this thing went viral on the internet, all these people were thinking about it and all these things were shared and it got more people thinking, more people were scared. All this emotion has now created some sort of thought form or something like that. I think that it's possible that, you're going to see an uptick in some sort of paranormal activity just because of the emotion that's entering
the atmosphere. And I think that it's what I'm afraid of, and we talked about this, is you're going to have certain shows that's going to go out and take advantage of this to
Right.
go, oh, we're going to investigate this, and then in 6 months you're going to have people talking to COVID-19 people that died and this, that, and the other. And that's what my biggest fear is, and that's going to get crazy for people. And then it's anyway, I have issues with that, but yeah, I think that it's quite likely that you're going to see an uptick in paranormal activity just because of the emotion and the energy that's being portrayed right now. People are tired, people are worn out, people are stressed,
Mm-hmm.
people are scared, people are dying, people are sad. Yeah, it's a tumultuous time that I think could seriously impact the greater spectrum of things.
What about you, Rob? What do you think?
I definitely think it's going to pick up. I really do. I also think that there's probably going to be a lot more paranormal groups that pop up as well, because it's probably going to, like Mike was talking about, it's probably going to hit some television show. And just like back in the day when Ghost Hunters first came out, not saying nothing about Ghost Hunters because that's the reason we started, you're going to have all these shows coming out that portray that people are talking to the coronavirus, and then you're going to have more paranormal groups. Oh, I want to go and try that out. Or you might have a decline in paranormal groups on the other spectrum, as far as, oh, I don't want to go into someone else's house because they might have the coronavirus, and we don't know how the pandemic is going to go. So I think it could go either way. It really could when it comes to different organizations and the different paranormals. But do I think there's going to be an uptick in activity? Yeah, I definitely do, because there's a lot of people out there that are dying because of the COVID-19 that 3 days ago, they felt fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're in bed. They don't really get time to say goodbye to their loved ones or anything like that. So
They might not have been able to. They were
Exactly.
in the hospital alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
And that's the other thing is I've heard that it can be, for some people, it's extremely painful. Like that's I don't like the individual that put the report out, but it was talking about how it wants you to lay there and be still, and it wants you to do this because when you try to move, it's painful and it hurts
Right.
and it takes your breath and you can't do this. So there's all that emotion and all that. And you look at these hospitals, matter of fact, we talked about it in the last show about Walter Reed, but you look at these hospitals that experienced an uptick in deaths in their communities and this, I think that there's a potential for a lot of activity increase.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Rob. I think that I don't think it will necessarily affect us going to somewhere because somebody's afraid. I think you'll start seeing more people like Zach wearing their mask going somewhere in an investigation, because people are now more conscious of the fact that there's bacteria in old buildings or this or that or the other. And
I mean, we wore masks going to the old buildings anyways. I mean, we've always done that.
We have.
Yeah, but not at all of them. I think more now. I'll give you my opinion, though. I do think I'll be more apt to wear a mask now than I was in the past.
Oh, and I have another. So now we have to get some ghost ones and everything. We did have a comment on our Facebook page, and I'm going to respond to that after. I just noticed it. It came right before we started, but asked where this came from. So I did want to give a shout out to my mother-in-law for making us these wonderful.
Yeah, I left mine in the car
with our Bigfoot.
I actually wear mine to work, so should have seen it the first time I pulled up to the gate with that, and they're like, "I want one." I'm like, "Sorry."
Yeah. So
no, they weren't commercially available. We had them made for us. Again, we're going to see that here in the next couple of weeks. They're going to probably let us out of quarantine in a couple of weeks, but it's going to be on the caveat that we have to wear our mask.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. What else do we got as far as, so we had the conspiracies, the deaths, cryptos, organizations, groups. Looks like we hit just about everything that we wanted to talk about.
You wanted to do the networking thing, Rob, so I thought I kind of hijacked that from you.
No, go for it. Yeah, definitely.
Here in the beginning, but typically we try to do a little networking thing where we talk about another group that we see just to kind of spread some love out there and that kind of stuff. This week I thought, because I took this one to heart a good bit, I thought that I would share the the whole International Cryptozoology Museum, which is Lauren Coleman's museum. It's in Maine. And I noticed the website wasn't working. I don't know if that has to do with the COVID-19 thing, but you can find them on Facebook at International Cryptozoology Museum. If you do a search for that, Lauren Coleman has a website too, as well as laurencoleman.com. But what I would urge is people to go, and I'm going to say this about the museum, but also any of your other favorite authors, your favorite paranormal sites. I mean, you look at like any of the places like the Winchester House. Those places are going to be closed down for months, and those were major undertakings to get us to get into those locations. So make sure you go support. I know, like the International Cryptozoology Museum, they have items for sale on their Facebook page. Their shop that's there, so you can go and you can buy a book, a poster. That kind of stuff. I know money's tight for everybody. I get it. I completely get it. But again, if we want to, and for us as our paranormal community, if we want to get out there more, then we need to go and support these guys. So go to your author, go to the museums, go to the sites that you like to go to, and help support these guys to help them through. Again, by the time this is over, as a minimum, is going to be a quarter of their annual, how they make their money. So,
Jeff.
Yeah, I bumped my laptop, but yeah, Mike, I agree with you, and I think it's important. Now we're all stuck in home. Yeah. We have a lot of time to be able to read books and research and that kind of stuff. So I know, yeah. So I know that's one of the things that I want to do. That's why I want to see if I can maybe sneak over and get that book from you somehow. But yeah, it's real important that we support these folks out there that are not able to get out right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So,
and then,
go ahead. Go ahead, Rob.
No, you go. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one of the other things we were going to talk about, we normally have a tech corner.
Yeah, that's where I was going as well.
Okay. And today, Mike wants to talk about and show us the EDI.
We have a commercial about it all the time.
I forgot about.
Now you actually have one, so go ahead.
Well, you can play that as well. So typically what you guys see. I lost my props. I had an actual K2 here, but typically what you guys see is you have the K2 meters that you see that's got, they like Ghost Hunters made it famous, where it goes in and it measures the whole EMF change of whatever it is that you're trying to look at. So sorry, I'm looking at the screen and it did something that I thought you cut me off. So
no,
anyway.
I hit the wrong button. I was trying to do the end of show music and I hit the end of show by mistake.
So, yeah, I thought I was dead there a second. But anyway, but what I've been using now for actually 3 or 4 years, and actually I think Rob was talking about they've been using it on some of the newer shows, is they call it the EDI, which is the EDI Plus. You can get these at GoStop or Amazon, and we actually have affiliate links on our YouTube sites or on our website and that sort of stuff. But I absolutely love this thing. This is it measures temperature, humidity, pressure,
vibrations,
geophone, and I said barometric pressure, EMF.
Yeah.
So anyway, but what I like about it is it takes an SD card, and it will log everything, and then when you get done, you go to the manufacturer's site, and my mind is done right now if anybody wants to look. Syntech Paranormal with Central Texas Paranormal, they're the ones that actually make and sell these things to the distributors there. But you can download the software and you can chart out what's going on. For example, so if we catch an EVP or we catch a temperature change or something, that's what we have. But with this, it will log it into place. You look at the screen, and we actually have had on multiple occasions where we've had a barometric pressure change, a humidity change, a temperature drop, EMF, and a little bit of geophone activity as well at the same time. So some of that stuff is natural. You have to kind of log that out and figure out what's going on. But when you get an 8-degree temperature change and a 7 or 8 EMF hit and barometric pressure drop of 2 or 3 points, that may be something that might be a little different. So when you're talking about data logging and actual paranormal research, not paranormal enthusiast, but this is the tool to go to. So, and you can carry it around with you. You can set it up as a geophone, set it in front of the camera, and the lights will come on. You can kind of see how it works
use
there.
It as a communication device with them, a way for a spirit to talk to you with it, all sorts of things.
It is a wonderful device. I believe you can get this now for about $200 again at Amazon or GoStop. Make sure you go, if you're going to look at one, go to our affiliate links there, and they'll be in the show notes as well, and you can check that out.
All right.
That's a good
That's
spill,
it.
Mike. That's a good spill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it cut me off. I lost my train there for a little while.
Jumped off the train, did you?
Yeah,
I did. I'm good at that, though.
Hey, yeah, just real quick, back to the coronavirus thing, Mike. You had wondered about the number of countries that have reported the coronavirus. Currently, there's 210 countries and territories that have reported the coronavirus.
And there's only 5 developed countries that have 5G. So think about that.
Yeah. So.
all right, cool.
Well,
Good show. I enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it, and I would like to thank all those folks that
Yes.
have been on with us through Facebook and all our other social media sites. Keep those questions coming. Send us a Facebook message. You can call us at 940-437-4MPI and leave us a message or a comment.
You can find us on, sorry, Rob.
No, you go ahead.
You can find us on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter. Just search for Military Paranormal, one word. You should be able to find us there. And actually, I think Twitter is MPI_paranormal.
Yes, it is.
And then on YouTube, we're Military Paranormal. I think after Rob's little spill last time, I think we picked up a few subscribers, but we're still just a couple. We're still just a couple short of getting to the
We
100
picked
goal.
up 3 new subscribers since I begged everyone. So I'm begging people again. Come on. I need 5 more to get 100. That's it. Just 5 more. Like I said, you're already home. You got nothing better to watch. Come on. Come over to our channel. Hit it up. Because we have something in store for you. I guarantee you will really, really like it. Talked about it earlier, but it's definitely coming. Get that subscription out there. Like us. Come on.
There you
Hey.
go.
There's my spiel.
So, got a question on Facebook.
Uh-oh. What you got?
When's our next broadcast?
I'm hoping do one next weekend too.
I'm looking for weekly. That's what I'm looking for. Seeing as how we got nothing else to do, why not? We do.
Well, what are we going to talk about? We got any idea?
Well,
I
we
think
actually have 4 that are out there right now. A couple of ideas. Yours, I don't know how far along you are with your research with the.
It'll be done this upcoming week.
Well, we got that one. I'm doing research on Men in Black. We got that one. We had someone send us a suggestion about the Queen Mary. So ghost ships. I thought about doing something on ghost ships. We have the different paranormal shows because I am binge watching. I know you're watching the Skinwalker Ranch. I'm watching the new Ghost Hunters. I don't know what Mike's watching.
Was watching Skinwalker Ranch. This week was crazy, so I didn't get. I've got it recorded. I've just got to get in there and watch it. So
Yeah, and for me, he said my idea. It's really not my idea. Jordan, my youngest daughter, had a thought of when we talk about exorcisms and priests or clergy that accomplish them. How does it affect them emotionally and later on down the road? So that's something we're going to look into, and I'm hoping to be able to get a clergy who's accomplished an exorcism and maybe give us a message or have him come on.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be real good if we could get that on there. But yeah, we got a couple of different shows, but I definitely want to get another one out there. Same time? Want to try and push for a weekly thing? 7 p.m.?
That sounds good to me.
sounds good to me.
All right, cool. So I guess our next podcast is going to be next Saturday, 7 p.m. Central Time. And I do believe we'll have all the technical bugs worked out. I thought we had them worked out, but
This one was one of those glitches, I think.
It was my fault. It really was. I joined 2 different Skype calls. I joined yours, Mike, and I was already in one with Jeff, so my computer said no, not happening. So but it looks like everything's going smooth now, so I think we got it worked out.
And hopefully next week we'll have our other member, Allison, on board with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get her on.
Yep. Well, that's
So,
the other one that we forgot, the Hawaiian one. I totally forgot
Hawaiian
about.
folklore,
Yeah, I totally forgot that about with Kevin. I'll have to get up with him, see if he's available again.
Yeah, so we've got a lot coming up. We're
Mhm.
going to do these weekly now. So stick with us. Give us your comments. Give us your feedback. Give us ideas for a show, and maybe we'll get it put together for you.
I really want to hear some stories. I want to hear your own personal stories. I know you got them. Everybody we talk to ends up telling us a story, but I just need you to share it with us. So make sure you send those along.
And you can send them not only on our Facebook and our social media ones, but if you want to, you can email it at podcast@militaryparanormal.com.
Alrighty. If y'all don't mind, again, you can find me on my personal site at Undiscovered Origins.
Yes.
Well, hey guys, thanks a lot for this. Learned a lot. Hopefully the listeners did as well. Look forward to next week where we'll get together again and talk about another topic.
All right. And for Allison, good night,
Bye,
y'all.
y'all.
Bye, y'all. Good night, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the MPI Paranormal Podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by Military Paranormal Investigations. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Don't forget to connect with us on Podbean, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time, the truth is to be found.